Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK. Back at you with another video here for a final look breakdown of the NFL Week 14 main slate, guys. Week 14, the NFL is winding down. We got the the NBA just starting up here with preseason, so a lot of content coming out for you guys every single day with videos as well as live streams. But if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports, daily fantasy sports slates. Before we get into the video, I want to thank you guys again for the support on the videos, the live streams, on Twitter. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. We're now over 6,000 subs on this YouTube channel. If you enjoy all this content, would appreciate if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when to upload videos, you know when to go live. As always, for these NFL main slates, I will be live 1 hour before lock on my YouTube channel to go over everything, answer all your guys' questions. Also, if you guys cannot watch the videos, I do upload an Apple Podcast. The link is in the description below. And finally, I want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. If you guys are not familiar with Prize Picks, it's a site where you can bet on player props. If you're interested in signing up, you can use the code DKDFS. That's DKDFS, all one word. I'll have a link in the description below to get a 100% match up to $100. So you put $100 in, you get $200 to play with. So a couple picks here before we get into the video that I kind of like for this main slate on tomorrow. I like the under on some of the high price backs. So I like the under on Dalvin Cook. Right now he's projected for 19.7 fantasy points. Again, Tampa Bay's run defense is one of the best in the league. So I like the under there on Cook. I also like the under on Derrick Henry. Now I know the matchup's great there against Jacksonville, but 22.2 projection, you're going to need him to score probably at least once for him to pay off that salary or to get that projection. So yeah, those are picks I like at the moment. I like the under on Cook, the under on Derrick Henry. But yeah, if you guys want to sign up, you can just go DKDFS, all one word. Again, link in the description below for 100% match up to $100. But all right, with that all out of the way, let's jump in the video. So before we talk about players and their prices, let's take a look at the Vegas odds for these games. So we have Cardinals, Giants. Right now it's a 46.5 over under. The Cardinals are 3-point favorites. Cowboys and Bengals are 43 over under. The Cowboys are 3-point favorites. I believe that's the lowest over under on the slate. Broncos, Panthers, another kind of ugly game, 44.5 over under. Panthers are 3-point favorites. We have Texans, Bears, a 46 over under. The Texans are 2-point favorites. Chiefs and Dolphins is a 50.5 over under. The Chiefs are currently 7-point favorites. Vikings and Bucks, this one of the higher ones on the slate as far as over unders, 53 over under. Tampa Bay Bucks 7-point favorites. Titans and Jags at 52.5 over under. The Titans are 7.5-point favorites. We have Colts, Raiders at 52 over under. The Colts are 3-point favorites. Jets, Seahawks at 47 over under. Seahawks currently 13.5-point favorites. And Falcons, Chargers, 49 over under. Falcons 1.5-point favorites. Saints, Eagles, 42.5 over under. We know Jalen Hurts taking over there for the Eagles. Saints are 7.5-point favorites. Still no Drew Brees. And Washington and San Fran, 43.5 over under. The 49ers are currently 3-point favorites. So let's just jump right into it, guys. And quarterback at the top, we have Mahomes at 8.1K. I think looks like a really good play in both formats. You know, I don't have to tell you this, but I think there's enough value you can get him in there. And usually, you know, this season at least, I've been spending up a lot on quarterback. And once again, I think that's the direction I'm going on the slate. I think you can do that in both formats. We'll talk about some cheap quarterback plays. There are a few that are definitely in play, but yeah, Mahomes is definitely someone that I'm looking to just because he possesses that huge upside, a really high floor too. Like he had that 112 fantasy point game against Denver, but they were blowing them out. He didn't have to do a ton. Other than that, you're basically going to get 20 fantasy points every single slate with upside of like 30 plus. So Mahomes is definitely someone looking to in both formats. Russell Wilson at 7.9. Concern here is just Jets. You know, I'm confident that the Jets can score enough points to make Seattle put the foot in the gas pedal. You know, kind of said the same thing here about the Giants. They lost. He only put up 17 fantasy points. He's had three out of the 4 games of below 20 fantasy points for Russell Wilson. So, you know, he's been struggling a bit. Rushing upside has still been there. You know, 60, 42, and 45 yards on the ground. He's going to be lower owned. I think more of just a contrarian option though right now. There at that price. Watson at 7.6. The matchup's not great, but positives here with Deshaun Watson, like I always say, is Houston's defense is terrible. So most of the time, Houston is going to be playing from behind. And that's kind of what you want with your quarterback. Now, Watson's a guy that's been running the ball a bit more too, right? 36, 36, 24, and 38 yards in the ground the last 4 games. He's missing Fuller, might miss Cooks. Kiki Cutie also questionable. So a lot of his targets out. Also, David Johnson. So this Houston team is pretty depleted. But yeah, Watson in cash, I probably wouldn't do it because of the matchup, but definitely still in play in GPPs. Now, Aaron Rodgers is in play in both formats. 7-5, matchup's great here. He's just been super, super productive, super safe. Besides the one game against Tampa Bay where he had 5 fantasy points. Other than that, it's basically been 20-plus fantasy points every single slate. And the matchup's great here against Detroit. We know Detroit's secondary really struggles. You have Devontae Adams, sure, priced up a bit, but Devontae is just has been having an unreal season. So a clear stack there with Rodgers, Adams. Love that stack every single week, and I like it, again, a lot here for GPPs. I mean, you can even do it in cash if you really wanted to. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, definitely something I like in both formats. Kyler, I'm pumping the brakes here a bit just because he's not running the ball a ton. That shoulder injury's really been bothering him. 15, 31, and 15 rushing yards the last 3 games. And, the reason why we like Kyler Murray so much is because of that rushing upside. Like, he was a guy that was like averaging like 60, 70 yards in the ground and a touchdown a game. Now it's just not running the ball a ton. The matchup is, honestly, like the Giants defense has been pretty stout. So Kyler is someone, surprisingly, I'm not really looking to on this slate. Brady at 6'9" against Minnesota. Matchup's good. He's been throwing the ball a good amount. 38, 39, 48, and 41 pass attempts the last 4 games. Does have a somewhat low floor. 6.9K. I think more in play for GPPs for me. But, with Tom Brady, you have guys underpriced with the receivers, right? Godwin's too cheap. I think Antonio Brown is a little bit underpriced. I mean, Mike Evans is still in play. Herbert's at 6'8". The matchup's good here against Atlanta. He really struggled that game against New England. I'm kind of throwing that one out, right? He threw the ball 53 times, only had 6 fantasy points. This is a much better spot here. Herbert is in play for me. Would I go there in cash? Probably not, but like the upside there in GPPs, you have Eckler that looks like one of the better running back plays in the slate. Keenan Allen is always in play, so a couple guys you can pair him with if you want to. Let's see, other options. Tannehill is just a little bit pricey for me at 6'7". I know the matchup's good, but Tennessee is a run-first team. Like, if they are playing from ahead, it's going to be a heavy dose of Derrick Henry. Taysom Hill at 6'6". Yeah, that seems priced about right? He does have the rushing upside. 49, 44, and 83 yards in the ground at the last 3 games. So, Hill's still viable. I'm not, overly or super excited about it, though. Let's see. Other options. I mentioned him. I can't play him, but, Philip Rivers has been pretty decent. 19, 22, 18, 19 fantasy points. The matchup against the Raiders is pretty good. So, yeah, I'm not going to play him, but you can still look to him for value. Stafford at 5'7", finally had a big game for his standards, 30 fantasy points. He's listed as questionable with a thumb injury. I expect him to go. This is a game Detroit's probably playing from behind, so they're probably going to have to air it out. Still no Galladay, but he still has a couple targets, in Marvin Jones Jr. and Hawkinson you can look to, or if you want to stack with. So Stafford is someone you can play for value. And, it's a pretty good matchup. Green Bay is not the best defensively, so Stafford is definitely one of the cheap quarterbacks I'm considering. Same thing with Matt Ryan. Probably can't go there in cash because Matt Ryan has such a low floor, but matchup here is decent, right? This game is one of the higher over-unders, almost 50 as far as over-unders go. 37, 39, 39 pass attempts. He's not been super efficient. 51, 56, and 48% completion percentage the last 3 games. No Julio Jones, probably a slight downgrade to Ryan, but still Ridley there. Matt Ryan at 5'7" is in play, but I think more suited for GPPs. Other options for me, Mitchell Trubisky is definitely in play here. Again, are you going to feel great about playing Mitch Trubisky? No, but the matchup's great. Houston, they cannot stop anyone. Trubisky does have some rushing upside, not a lot. There's games where he can get you 30, 40 yards in the ground. Allen Robinson's a little bit underpriced. A couple cheap wide receivers in play as well. And I think David Montgomery looks decent as well. So once again, you guys knew I was pretty high in the Bears last week. I'm pretty high in the Bears again this week. Trubisky is someone you can go to, but are you going to feel amazing about it? No. And then below that's probably where my interest lies. So once again, for me, though, it's probably going to be the Seattle quarterback. So I think you're going to want to try to get either Mahomes or Rodgers in there. There are some other options, right? You have Herbert in the mid-range, I think looks decent. Taysom Hill because of the rushing upside. And then some cheaper targets, right? You can look to a guy like Stafford. You can look to a guy like Matt Ryan, even a guy like Mitchell Trubisky. Let's move on to running back. So running back Dalvin Cook at 9.4 is someone I'm not looking to this week. Matchup is terrible against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is one of the best teams at defending the run. Dalvin Cook is game flow independent. He's going to be out there either way if they're trailing or not. But yeah, I'm probably going to look elsewhere for my running backs. I think at 9-4, it's a little pricey for the matchup. So I'm going to look elsewhere. Christian McCaffrey, doubtful. Man, he cannot catch a break there with injuries. Derrick Henry's also a fade for me. There's this whole Derrick Henry in December narrative. I get it. I do. And the matchup is really good here against the Jags. So, like, I'm not going to talk you off Derrick Henry. I rarely, if ever, play Derrick Henry. He has games where the range of outcomes with Derrick Henry is so wide, right? He can go out and get you 5 fantasy points, or he can go out and break the slate, which he does at least a couple times a year, puts up like 40 fantasy points. So, yeah, Derrick Henry is definitely in play here, but does just know, right? The floor is pretty low with him if game flow goes the wrong way, right? If Tennessee falls behind in this one, like, Derrick Henry will get phased out like we saw against Cleveland, where we only had 15 rush attempts. See, Aaron Jones at 7.6, I think is okay. It is a little pricey. What you're going to get from him is he's going to be super productive with his touches, kind of like an Alvin Kamara, right? You're never going to expect a ton of carries for him, but probably around 20 touches for Jones is in play here, is viable, right? The matchup's good. I think Devontae might pick up some ownership here. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers looks like a pretty good running back, or pretty good quarterback play. So, one way to kind of leverage that ownership is you look to the running back. Aaron Jones in play, but again, they still have Jamal Williams, like getting involved. Robinson at 7.5, and he continues to put up big games, 29, 22 fantasy points. I know they're dogs here, but he's kind of game flow independent, right, with 6 targets in back-to-back games. So, yeah, once again, viable here. I think the ownership might be a little bit up in him, but I think he's still in play. Now, Austin Eckler at 7K, really like him. Matchup's great. I know New England, right, throw that game out. Game before, he had 23 fantasy points, 11 catches, and 16 targets. I know Balaj is healthy, but Eckler, I expect about 70% of the touches for him, and another guy that's super, super productive with his workload. So I do like Eckler a good amount there at that price at 7K. Let's see. Other options at running back. I'm not really looking to Carson. Gibson's out. We'll talk about some of the cheap Washington backs. Zeke expected to go at 6.6. Seems about right. The matchup's good. I think is definitely in play here. I expect about 70% of the touches, and if Dallas does play from ahead in this one, you could get a big game there from Zeke at a cheaper price. DeAndre Swift at 6.5. Got to keep an eye on this. Right, he practiced in full. I think he's still dealing with some concussion symptoms. We'll see. I mean, if he is going to be their workhorse back in this one, I like him. But again, they still do have 2 other backs in the team with Carry On with AP. Will they kind of take it easy on him with his first game back from that injury? So, yeah, Swift, if he was full go and I knew he was going to get full workload, I would really like him at that price. But there is some worry there. Now, Montgomery, you guys he was like my favorite play last week. He had 27 fantasy points. I know he was chalky, but once again, like he still looks good here. Matchup's great. He's going to get a good amount of the touches. They did give Cordell Patterson a little bit more work than usual that last game. But, yeah, Montgomery is definitely still in play here because I expect him to get 70-80% of the running back touches. He's involved in the pass game. He's running a ton of routes, and the matchup's good. So, yeah, I do like David Montgomery once again there in both formats. Mike Davis at 6.4 with no Christian McCaffrey in play. I'm not super, super excited about it, but, probably expect around 20 touches from him. We know he's a good pass-catching back. So, yeah, Davis viable as well there in the mid-range. Below that, Philadelphia, I'm not really looking to Sanders. They're just kind of phasing him out. Jones is always in play for GPPs, but still competing with Fournette for touches. Jamal Williams, that's too pricey for him. Jonathan Taylor has had good back-to-back good games, 15 and 22 fantasy points, but again, still competing with Wilkins, still competing with Hines with touches. I think he's more suited for GPPs at this price, right? Because you have guys at a similar price range that are kind of workhorse backs, right? You have like a Montgomery for a little bit more. You have a guy like, like Zeke. You have, even Eckler for a little bit more. So, not saying Jonathan Taylor's out of play, but more suited for GPPs for me. Other options, I think Gaskin's fine here. 5.6, he's game flow independent. Like, he's going to be out there whether they're winning or losing. This is a game they probably are trailing. But again, he's shown he's a good pass-catching running back at 5.6K. I think he's once again in play here. Other options at running back. Below this, there's not a lot I'm super, super excited about. So, Washington backs, McKissick is going to be their pass-catching back with Antonio Gibson out. He had a big game last game again, but you need the game script. Right? We talked about that as him. liking McKissick as a lower owned play in that 2-game slate, and he paid off big time at 16% ownership, went for 17 fantasy points. Now, sure, the Gibson injury probably did help a bit, but he's going to be out there for the passing down roles, right? And Peyton Barber is going to be the guy that is kind of going to have the Antonio Gibson role, the early down role. So let's go to Washington. Barber's at 4.4, expected to serve as the primary inside rusher. So Probably doesn't have a ton of upside because I don't really expect him to get a lot of work through the air. But yeah, for me, I would rather take the shot on McKissick. But again, you kind of need the good game script. If they do play from ahead, it would be Peyton Barber. And that's really it for me for running back. I'm not really interested in the Jets running backs. I know Ty Johnson had a good game last week, but I'm not looking there. So let's move on to wide receiver. So wide receiver, Davante Adams, 9-3. He just continues to have big weeks every single week, right? The floor is so high with him. Clear pairing with, obviously, Aaron Rodgers. And the matchup's great here, so there's not a ton to say about Davante Adams. He is really, really good play every single week. Same thing with Tyreek Hill, right? 8.5K. Sure, seems a little pricey, but targets 18, 14, 15, 11 targets is insane. Obviously, the clear guy you pair him with Mahomes, right? So there's nothing bad to say about those top guys with Davante, with Tyreek Hill. With Metcalf and Lockett here at 8-4, Metcalf's at 8-4, Lockett's at 7-2. They're just super frustrating, right? It's one of those guys will have a big game, the other one will bust. At their respective price points, I would rather just pay up a little bit more for Hill, for Adams, who have been more consistent, right? Now, Keenan Allen, I think, is in play at 7-7. The matchup's good here. Targets, he's basically averaging double-digit targets every single week. I think he isn't going to be super, super popular this week, but I once again like him. Right, I've been high in Keenan Allen basically every single week, and he's just had such a high floor due to that target share. It does have a ton of upside as well. So, and you compare him with Herbert, right? If you feel pretty good about Herbert, I don't mind that, right? 6.8K, maybe slightly overpriced for Herbert, but Allen, that pairing does have a ton of upside here in this matchup against Atlanta. Hopkins a little banged up, but expected to go. Not super excited about it. I think I'm going to look elsewhere for my wide receivers. Now, Ridley at 7-5, no Julio Jones, so he should be the clear number one guy. And you can make the argument that Julio playing maybe helps him. You can make the argument both ways, right? But with Julio being out, like Matt Ryan's going to look Ridley's way a ton. Expect about double-digit targets for him. So yeah, I think Ridley is a pretty solid play here in the mid-range here at 7-5. Does possess a lot of upside. Other options at wide receiver. So now we're kind of getting down more to the mid-range. Let's see. Allen Robinson, 6'8", right? If you want to pair him with a cheap quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, I'm fine with Robinson. He's a guy that, averaging around 9-10 targets a game, does possess a lot of upside. 6'8", seems a little bit underpriced for this matchup. Again, I keep hammering down. Houston's defense is terrible. So Allen Robinson, definitely in play there in the mid-range. Then we get to the Tampa Bay receivers. So 6'6" for Mike Evans, 6'3" for Godwin, and I think 5'5" for Antonio Brown. All look a little bit underpriced. Like Tampa Bay's been throwing the ball a ton, right? We mentioned that with Tom Brady. The tricky part is, which wide receivers going to have the big game, but all will be involved a good amount. So I think all three look pretty solid here with Evans, with Godwin, and with Antonio Brown. All three I'm definitely looking to there in the mid-range. Other options at wide receiver, yeah. So Cooks at 6'1". Questionable. We'll see. Also, Cutie banged up. They could be really, really thin at wide receiver. Let's just go to Houston really quick because I want to talk about this. So yeah, Cook's banged up. Cutie banged up. Listen, Chad Hansen. I know, you're not going to be excited about playing Chad Hansen, but he basically played the entire game last game. He played the Will Fuller role. He had 5 catches and 7 targets. He's going to be out there majority of the game once again. And if Cooks can't go or Cutie can't go, probably more targets to go around. So I think he's in play here for value. I think they're going to call up Stephen Mitchell Jr. as well. Potential value if either Cooks or Cutie miss. So that'll be a situation we'll have to monitor going into Sunday. Robbie Anderson at 6'2". So let's go to Carolina really quick. Right, we have DJ Moore not looking like he's going to be activated. So Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel are going to be, the number one guys here. Samuel is a little bit cheaper at 5'2". Still no Christian McCaffrey. He's a guy that they want to get the ball a lot. They'll give him some carries as well. So I think Curtis Samuel, for me, I like to discount a little bit better with him to Robbie Anderson. Both in play here. Again, both should be targeted a good amount. And as far as who's going to fill in for DJ Moore, Zylstra or Farrell Cooper. We'll keep an eye on that. That'll be something we'll probably get more news on going into Sunday. But let's move on. So other mid-range wide receivers here. Let's see. Marvin Jones Jr. Again, Galladay's still out, so he is going to be the number one guy. Back-to-back games of 12 targets. This is a game they should be playing from behind. So I do like Marvin Jones Jr. If you want to go Rodgers, Davante Adams stack, you have a guy you can run it back with clearly in Marvin Jones Jr. Possesses a lot of upside, or you can look to Hockenson. Those are the two guys I feel the most comfortable with here for Detroit. I do kind of like that game stack. So, or again, you can just pair Stafford with one of those guys and run it back to Davante Adams if that's the way you want to go. Let's see, other mid-range wide receivers. We'll talk about the Jets. Let's just go to the Jets. The Jets, actually. God, I can't talk really quick. So where are the New York Jets? Mims out. Jamison Crowder not looking like he's going to go. Was unable to practice Friday. So with that being said, you guys know how I feel about Braxton Berrios. Whenever Crowder is out, Berrios is going to play the slot role. And we know the Jets love going to their slot receivers. Like, he's had some good games when Crowder's been out, right? So I like Berrios at min price for value. I don't think he's going to pick up a ton of ownership. Who's going to fill in for the Denzel Mims role? I think it'll be Jeff Smith. Once again, in play. He's had also some decent games this year. The big game week 4, 7 catches and 9 targets. So, yeah, there's potential value here. Still Perriman. He'll probably be the number one guy. Also in play below 4K. So these Jets receivers, you can definitely look here for value with, obviously some injuries there at the top. Other options. If you can't afford Devontae Adams, like Lazard is in play in the mid-range. 5K, though, seems about right, but still does possess some upside. T.Y.'s had back-to-back pretty solid games here. He had a big 8-catch and 11-target game there against Houston. The matchup's once again good. So T.Y., yeah, in play at 5-1, but you were not getting him at the discount like we did a couple weeks ago. Cheaper options at wide receiver. Let's see. This next range is not amazing for me. There's not a ton I like kind of in that 4K range. Below that, though, there are some options. We mentioned Chad Hansen. The other Bears receivers let's go to Chicago. With Miller and Mooney, again, I would prefer Mooney for the discount. He's playing a little bit more. Still getting targeted a good amount. Like, hasn't had a huge game yet, but this guy is talented, and I'm going to continue to bring him up because I think he's, once again, in play here for value. Other cheaper wide receivers, let's see. Michael Gallup, mentioned him, liking him a lot there in the showdown slate. Had 7 catches, 11 targets for 86 yards and a touchdown. Probably won't get that again, but he's going to be out the majority of the game, and 3.8 is just a little bit underpriced. So, yeah, Gallup is definitely someone looking to for value as well. Again, mentioned Perriman, mentioned those other Jets receivers. Let's see, like Fitz doesn't have a ton of upside, but he'll be out the majority of the game, or could have his snaps limited. That'll be something to monitor. If they do limit his snaps, wouldn't be as excited about it. But if he gets his normal snaps, right, he'll play about 80% of the game. And again, he gets targeted a good amount when he's out there. But yeah, I think that really wraps up for me for wide receiver. So let's finish up with tight end today. Kelsey, Waller, again, I don't have to talk them up, right? Both have a ton of upside. We saw the huge game from Waller last week. Maybe the ownership goes up after that, but yeah, both those guys are great plays if you can get to them. Hockenson at 5K, so mention Marvin Jones Jr. Hockenson is the other guy I feel confident with for Detroit as far as their wide receiving core. 7, 8, 9 targets, still no Galladay. This is a game they're probably playing from behind. So I like Marvin Jones Jr. I like Hockenson here for Detroit as bringbacks if you want to go with the Green Bay stack or if you want to pair them with Stafford. Gronk at 4.8, it's a fine option. He's still running a good amount of routes, still getting targeted a decent amount. He had over 100 yards that last game against Kansas City. Yeah, in play for sure, but I would rather get to the wide receivers for a little bit more. Mike Gesicki at 4.5. Yeah, viable. Did have 9 catches, 11 targets. Probably can't expect that again, but this is a game they're probably playing from behind. Let's see. Robert Tonyan at 4.2. He's been solid, averaging about 5 targets a game. Good matchup, I think, in play. Goddard at 4K would probably be the one guy I would target here for Philly as far as wide receivers go. I didn't mention Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts at 5.1. If you want to take a shot there for a really cheap quarterback, you can because Jalen Hurts does possess some upside. But I don't think I can go there in cash. Like, if you want to go that in GPPs, fine. I think the only guy I would pair Hurts with would be Goddard, who is playing a majority of the game, running a ton of routes. Juju Smith's back from injury. Matchup's good. He had a great start to the year, but kind of been cooling off. 3.9 is a fair enough price, right? He's a guy that can look to in the red zone, obviously. Hayden Hurst at 3.7. We know Julio Jones. He's still running a ton of routes, still getting targeted a decent amount. Hasn't really had a big game in a while, but I think he's a fine option there if you need a cheaper play. Dalton Schultz at 3.5. Well, same thing, right? He's running a ton of routes. He's out there majority of the game. Targets are fair, like averaging 5-6 targets a game. I think he's a perfectly fine option as well. Jordan Reed ran the most routes he's run so far this year. Did only have 3 catches and 4 targets, but yeah, I think he's a guy that is if you need someone super cheap, playable. Logan Thomas, I mentioned him every single week. He had a huge week last week. Now, I think the ownership will be up. I think he's going to be pretty popular as far as the cheap tight end goes. If I think he's going to be like the ultimate chalk, then I'll probably look elsewhere. But I'm not saying he's a bad player. He's still going to run a ton of routes. He's going to be out there basically the entire game. Now, let's talk about, I want to mention the Minnesota guys really quick, and then we can get out of here. So, Minnesota, Rudolph doubtful, Irv Smith Jr. questionable. If Irv Smith can't go, we can look to a guy like Conklin who will kind of be the de facto only tight end for Minnesota. And we know Minnesota does like, utilizing their tight end. So potential punt play there with Conklin if Irv Smith Jr. is out. But I think that's really it for me for tight end. Let's see. Was there anyone else I wanted to mention? Cole Kmet for the Bears did have 5 catches and 7 targets. He's been running more snaps recently. Like they've been getting him a little bit more involved. I think he's an okay punt too. But that's kind of where my interest lies there for tight end. As far as defense goes, well, normally I like punting it, but there's a couple plays here in the mid-range I think are viable, right? If you want to get up to the Saints at 3-8, that's fine. Saints defense is really good. Obviously going up against back quarterback there. But, you could argue Hurts is probably a better quarterback right now than Carson Wentz. Seahawks defense going up against Jets at 3K. Yeah, that's viable for sure in the mid-range. I like Washington as well. San Francisco as an offense has been struggling a bit, obviously playing with Mullins as a quarterback. Washington's defense, does possess some upside here. So, yeah, kind of like Washington there in 280 in the mid-range. And then if you need like a super, super cheap defense, let's see. Don't hate the Jets, right? Seattle's defense actually has been struggling recently. I think Bengals defense are okay going up against backup quarterback there in Dalton. You can make the same argument with the Cowboys on the other side, going up against backup quarterback. So, yeah, there's definitely some cheap defenses if you want to go that direction. But, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. So, if you have been enjoying the content so far, I'd really appreciate if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you don't want to upload videos, you don't want to go live. Again, live 1 hour before lock Sunday. Make sure to check the live stream. If you guys are interested in NBA preseason content, I have videos. I have live streams going up every single day, giving out you guys a ton of information on Twitter as well. If you guys are interested, go check that out. But thanks again. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow in the live stream.